Everyone, and welcome back to Imperfectly Broken, the podcast. I have Savannah with me once again. If you'd like to learn more about her, we have a part 1 episode that is posted last week on Wednesday. Go back and listen to that to learn more about her. She's amazing. And honestly, we started talking about this topic, and I was a little bit worried about trying to fit like 20-25 minutes in. But then she had these wonderful, deep questions that were just so good that we just talked over. So I decided we're going to start it right back up where we left off, which is presenting ourselves. And she talked about the quote, "The rest of the world is hidden, and we can only see what we look at." And then I said, I think that's true to a point. I also think that we can see sometimes past that as well.
Yeah.
For example, like I said, back to church, I was sitting, or maybe someone else told me this story, but we were sitting and listening to sacrament meeting, and people were talking, and there was this woman sitting on the side, and the time kept ticking down, smaller and smaller and smaller, and there was less time to talk. And she had maybe a minute or two to speak. And it was disappointing because you could see she had a few papers and had a lot to say. Aww. And you could read that on her face. And I don't think she meant to present that.
Right.
I don't think she meant to present that she was disappointed or sad that she didn't get more time to talk about what she had studied and prepared for. And then afterwards she just kind of left. Like, she just kind of walked out. And so it was really sad. But I think in addition to that, when people do try to put a mask on when they're having a hard time, sometimes if you really know that person, or if you're good at reading body language, I don't necessarily believe, I'm not like crazy about energy, but I totally believe it's a thing.
Yeah.
100% in your countenance and everything. But if you're good at reading energy and reading body language, I think you can see past what people present.
Yeah. That's, wow. You really just proved my quote.
No,
I think there's both sides, and I think that's great. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, I love that. I think knowing how to see that and when to kind of put yourself in that situation where you're helping that person out too.
That's a vulnerable state too.
I do think that's a powerful thing and a great thing to have in a friendship. So
I think it's a blessing and a curse.
Okay.
Because it's a blessing to help others and to be there and to have the opportunity to serve them because you can see that they need it. It's also a curse because a lot of times you carry that emotion with you.
Yeah.
You know, if someone's upset, you feel that with, like, you're not like, oh, I feel everything you're feeling, because that's not possible. But you feel upset for them, you know, or sad that they're struggling, or, you know, whatever. But I think it's more of a blessing than a curse, but I think sometimes it's hard. I'm pretty good at reading people and seeing, you know, what's going on with them. From personal experience, I have had times when, you know, someone's like, how the heck did you know I was having a hard time? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's been so rewarding to do something for them and watch their face light up.
I think that's great.
There was this one girl, I was in choir, back in choir again, in high school, and the director, we were sitting before class had started, and the director was asking her how she was, and I don't think anyone else noticed, but she like cried a little bit to him and was like saying she had a really hard time. I went and made her a whole note, and I think I did something else too. I think I gave her something. I think I made her something, or I don't know, of some sorts. And before she came in the next day, I like ran to her chair, put it on there, and ran out. And she came in as I was running back.
Aww.
And I was like, she's going to catch me. I'm so scared. But she went over and she saw the note on her desk and it had her name on it. Otherwise, you know, you'd be like, is this for me or not? You know?
Right.
She was super, super into rainbows, like loved rainbows. So I just decorated the whole card in rainbows everywhere. When she read it, because I was like, you know, peeking at her from my peripheral vision. And she started crying. Like, literally tears were coming down her face. And she was, like, looking around to see, like, who had given it to her. And I, you know, just looked ahead, and she probably never knew it was me. But that was the most fulfilling and satisfying thing, when you know someone's having a hard time and you do something for them.
Yeah.
It's almost life It's life-changing. You just become a different person.
Gosh,
yeah.
who am I? Wow. You know, you give me hope in the world. You really do.
Gosh.
Last semester, I was surrounded by so many people that I feel like talked gossip and really didn't care about anybody other than, like, the people they really knew.
Right.
Going with energy, there's so many people out there that don't have anybody, that just don't need any more crap on them, you know? For lack of better words.
No,
I just think that's great that you did that.
Thank you.
I love that.
I don't want to get emotional. It is the biggest blessing in the world to do something like that and watch their reaction.
Yeah.
And you don't get to see their reaction all the time,
right.
you know, unfortunately. But when you do get to see it, man, it's absolutely life-changing. So I know I'm talking a lot, but now I want to share a story.
Okay. No, I'm good.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was an FSY counselor.
Okay.
Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I do.
So I'm pretty sure everyone listening does, because I've done a lot of segments on it, asking different FSY counselors questions and stuff.
Yeah.
And I might have shared this story already, but I'm going to share it again, because why not?
Yeah.
So there was this young man, okay, and he was very drawn in, very quiet. His energy was sad. Like, you could tell that he was sad about something. He wasn't happy to be there, you could tell very easily. He was presenting that he didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And it was easy to see that he didn't want to be there.
Right.
On Tuesday night, we have a dance, and I was on duty making sure kids didn't, like, I don't know, leave or something. And he came over, and he didn't really want to dance, so we just talked for like an hour. It was great. He was a little bit older. I think he was like 17.
Okay.
17 and a half. Thursday is testimony day. So that's when we have like a super spiritual day all day, and then at the end of the day we have a testimony meeting and we share, you know, what we believe. He was sitting in front of me in this room that we were in, and like I said, I was a leader, so I was one of the counselors. I was over him. He had his phone out, and his phone was open in notes on his iPhone.
Okay.
And he had my testimony at the top in bold letters that says heading.
Right.
And then underneath it there was one word. Non-existent. That's what it said.
Wow.
So he wrote, my testimony, non-existent. I can't remember exactly how it all worked out, like if people were still sharing their testimony. We were in a really big room, so it's very possible we could have just been whispering.
Right.
But he turns it towards me, and if you were here in person, like Savannah is, you'd see that I'm like holding out my hand. But he turns it to me, and he holds it out to me, and you could tell there's a lot of pain in his face, a lot of pain in his voice when he says, is this okay? And it was almost like a rebellious thing, like, tell me this isn't okay, like, let's talk about, you know.
Right.
But I was like, yeah. He was shocked. He was like, what? I held my hand out for him to give me his phone, and he kind of gave me a weird look, and I was like, you know, hand it over. I don't think he thought I was taking it away, because I wasn't, and I'm pretty sure he didn't think that. But I took it from him, and notes was already opened, so I wrote him a note. I said, it's probably really scary that you're here. It's probably really scary that your parents dropped you off and said, see you Saturday. It's probably really hard that you didn't want to be here and you're stuck and there's nothing you can do about it. And you know what's probably the most hard is that all day today we've been talking about the Spirit.
Yeah.
And you think you don't have a testimony. And I wrote down something like, well, guess what? You do. You do have a testimony. The fact that you wrote down my testimony non-existent means you have one. The fact that you have been trying all week.
Yeah.
You're not on your phone. I said, I've been watching you this week. You haven't been on your phone, not paying attention. You've been there. You've been present. And that tells me you have a testimony. Like you do. I think I said a few other things, and I talked about Matthew 17:20. It talks about a mustard seed of faith and how it can move mountains.
Wow.
I gave him back his phone, and he kind of whispered like, now or later. And I said, you know, later or now, I don't care. Long story short, the next day, I was like, where did this kid go? Totally different kid. Completely different kid. His energy was bright and happy. It was like this weight was lifted off of him. You could visibly see this in his countenance. He was different. He talked to people. He was laughing a whole bunch. I even have a picture of him on Friday because that was the last day, the day after this. We were doing this skit for one of the activities, and he's laughing. And I had not seen him laugh all week. And he was laughing and smiling, and he was happy. And it was incredible to watch. And so then that night, Tuesdays and Fridays, we have dances. So at that night at the dance, he came and he found me. And he said, my sister wants to meet you. I said, do I know her? And he goes, no, she just wants to meet you. And I was like, wow. Like, he's told his sister about me. This is a big deal. I asked him, I said, hey, what'd you think of that note? And he stopped. And he looked at me for a second. And he goes, it was awesome.
Wow.
I was like, whoa, this
Yeah.
is, whoa.
I really did something there.
Yeah, something happened. It wasn't just me, though. Obviously, the big guy up there helped out. Then after the dance, we have a little company take it home where you talk about goals. And you basically say goodbye. Hug your kids, and then you don't see them the next day. You see your girls, but the boys you don't really see because they leave, right?
Yeah.
We talked about goals. And he raised his hand, and I was like, yes, let's see what he has to say. He said, my goal is to get past 2nd Nephi. In the Book of Mormon, there are different books, and the 2nd Nephi is a little bit towards the front. And his goal was realistic and applicable, and it showed to me how much this week had meant to him, that he was taking this seriously.
He wants to do something
about this. And then afterwards, he came up to me, and I'm not going to lie to you, he had a little tear in his eye. I had lots of tears in my eyes, because I'm pretty emotional. I asked if I could give him a hug, because that's one of my favorite things, and so I gave him a hug, and he slipped me a note. He gave me a note, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm way too excited to read this, but I couldn't right then, because we were saying goodbye to everyone, so I put it in my pocket, and then that night when I was waiting for the girls to go to bed, and I was sitting in the hall, I pulled it out. His dad is the stake president.
Okay.
His dad's basically a leader, one of the leaders of our church. He talked about how his friend's moving. He was really, really sad about that all week. And how he didn't want to be there. And then he talked about how his dad's the stake president. He's had all this pressure to have a testimony. And he's like, and I've tried for so long and nothing's happened. Like, I feel nothing. And he's like, but what you said was what I needed. Wow. That was what I needed. And for me, I'm like, wow, like, where are the walls for me to put my hands on the walls and be like, oh my goodness, what just happened?
Yeah.
But we were talking about countenances and being able to see through them. And he was putting himself off as, I don't want to be here, and I don't know, rebellious or frustrating, but I could see through that and see the pain.
Yeah.
Like he was in pain,
Right.
He wasn't some rebellious, annoying kid, obnoxious and annoying. He was in pain and needed help. I think being able to see through what we present is super key. So, anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry for just going on a little tangent over here.
No, I love that. I love every second of it. I love stories.
Me too.
I feel like stories are a great way to learn about somebody's life and who they are. I will listen to stories all the time.
Me too. So fun fact, actually, I took English 2010, right?
Okay.
And you have to write a 10-page paper. That's required. At the end of the class, you have a 10-page paper that you turn in. Mm-hmm. I was in a rhetoric class, so basically about writing and communication. I wrote about stories and motivational speaking. Wow. That was my 10-page paper topic.
There you go.
And I wrote 10 pages on it.
That's great.
So, I completely agree. Obviously, I'm very passionate about stories. I think stories are the absolute key. I mean, back to Jesus Christ, he taught in parables.
Yeah.
He taught in stories.
Yeah. This is on topic, but Jordan Peterson, back to my guy, my man.
Yeah.
He wrote the book 12 Rules of Life, if you didn't watch the last episode. But he actually dives into the Bible, and he dissects the Bible in a psychologic way and dives into how it relates to life and what they're trying to say through these stories. So yeah, I totally agree. I think you can learn so much from stories.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just 100,000% agree.
Yeah. Well, going back to the small notes, I mean, we could talk all day about that.
We probably could.
I mean, I remember in high school, I was having a really hard time at home. I got quarantined back when COVID was a thing, and missed homecoming and my first soccer game of the year and all these things. And when I came back, my friend gave me this note, and it really meant a lot. I am a big believer in treat others how you want to be treated.
Yeah.
Which is why sometimes I don't understand why people don't just be nicer to people.
Oh, yeah. I 100% agree. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Seriously. On people's birthdays, everybody sends happy birthday or whatever, but I try to tell them why they mean so much to me.
Oh my goodness, I do the same thing.
Why I'm grateful for them.
And
I feel like if somebody did that to me, that'd make my whole day.
Absolutely.
So I feel like that's a great mindset to have, where you just want to do to others as they would do to you.
If someone did something for you that meant the whole world, what would it be? And then do that for others.
Yeah.
This is so dumb, I know, but every single year, for some reason, I always want someone to do one of those birthday posts for me. It's so dumb, I know. But I have friends who, on their other friends' birthdays, will post 10
Yeah.
stories of just pictures of them.
Right.
And I'm like, I know it's so dumb, but I just want someone to do that for me.
Right, yeah.
But I've never done it for anyone else. I think it's because if I do it for one, I feel like I'd have to do it for everyone.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I wouldn't want to, like, hurt anyone's feelings, and so I
Yeah.
just don't. I also don't post on social media ever because, But
Good for you.
that's just been a random thing that over the years, I think I care way less now. I'm like, whatever,
That's
you know.
good.
There are other things I would rather do, spend
Yeah.
good quality time with people. In high school, I was always like, it's my birthday.
Yeah,
I don't wanna say
know.
anything
Exactly.
about it.
No, I totally agree. I mean, after moving away from home, literally this year, nobody posted, and I was like,
Yeah.
I guess this is life now,
Yeah,
you know?
for real.
It's just how it'd be.
My mom always posts.
That's good.
So at least
we
I've
love
got that.
moms.
Yeah, at least I've got that going
Moms
for
follow
me.
through.
Yeah, she's great. And she posts pictures of me as a kid, too, which is cute as well.
Yeah, that's always fun.
I don't even know how I got us off topic. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I think...
Oh, we were talking about what we would do for others.
If this is a sporadic podcast, then my apologies. But
No,
this is
I think
good.
that's great.
I think these are good topics. Do you have any other thoughts on how you perceive others?
I think that's interesting, and one of the things that's, I don't know, difficult for me to believe that people aren't thinking about me, you know? Because I'm like, I think about others, you know? Like,
It's so true.
so if I do it, then obviously other people have got to do it.
Yeah.
At the same time, I think, we think, they think, we think, they think, not we think. No, I'm just kidding. We think they think way more about the specific things than they probably do.
Yeah.
But I do think about some people sometimes, like, oh, what the heck are they wearing?
Yeah.
You know?
We're getting really confusing here, but what you think that they perceive of you.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Versus what they actually think,
Yes.
you know, is most likely totally different.
Yeah, that's my same thing with being an institute choir president. I think I'm being extremely weird and extremely crazy.
Yeah.
And they probably think I'm weird and don't want to talk to me. But then maybe someone's hearing me and like, hey, she's a likable person.
Right.
Like, I could trust her.
Right.
You know?
I just started talking to this girl that I had a class with apparently all semester long last semester. I didn't even know. Like, I mean, technically, she sat in the back of class. I was in the front of class.
You're a front seat sitter.
I am. Yeah, I am. I'm one of those nerds.
I'm a second row, first row, second
Yeah.
row.
But she was telling me some things that she, like, noticed from that class, and I was like, that's totally not the way I thought I was perceiving myself in that class. So
Interesting.
it's kind of interesting to kind of see that. One of my good friends, Riley, she's a pal. We like to laugh
She's a
about
pal.
our first impressions of each other.
Oh, yes.
From, like, first semester.
Yes.
And it's so interesting to see
Absolutely.
that people see you totally different than you think they
Than
do.
you think they do.
So
that's what I'm saying is my roommate that I share a room with. I was
Yeah.
like, I was so worried you thought I was crazy.
Right.
And super, like, depressed or
Yeah,
something.
and
She's like, actually, no,
Yeah.
at all.
I think maybe something to work on is
Paranoia.
paranoia of how other people see you. Because honestly, it's probably not that bad
Yeah.
than what you think.
And honestly, back to that, if they do think bad of you, you don't really want them in your life in the first place.
Exactly. No,
You
I
know?
totally agree.
If people think the best of you,
Yeah.
and they tell that to you, or they spend time with you, or they reciprocate that love,
Yeah.
then those are the people you want in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a great concept.
There we
Think of
go.
something else.
Okay, so our time's kind of running out already. Believe it or not.
Crazy.
Not even kidding you. But there was
man.
one thing I wanted to talk about, and I actually have had this in my notes forever, and just didn't know how to connect it to literally anything else that I was talking about, so I never did. But in one of my classes, we talked about the psychologist. His name's Ellis. I think it's Robert Ellis, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Anyway, so he had a theory of personality, and he wrote down that humans spend a lot of time trying to impress others, live up to expectations, and outdo the performances of other people. We define ourselves as good or worthwhile when we believe that others accept and approve us, or accept and approve our actions or what we're doing. And he said, I think there's some value in that. We've got to think a little bit about what others think, or we probably would. This is awful, and I'm totally going to expose myself, but at work I have to clean, and if I think that my manager's going to look at how well I clean better. so I clean well.
Valid, honestly.
Ellis said, we talked about how credible is your source? How credible? Are they trustworthy? What do others that you love say? What would they say? You know, if they heard that this person said this to you, would they agree? Or would they be like, no, they're crazy?
Yeah.
And so there was this woman that our professor showed us a video of Ellis as a therapist with her. And she was talking about her husband left her. And she was obviously really sad and depressed about it. And he said, your husband, I think it's David. Is David the sole arbiter of who's loving? Yeah, he said it really funny.
Okay.
So we make fun of it. But is he the sole arbiter of who's lovable in the world? Does he get to decide if I'm lovable or not? And she's like, no. And she's like, so what makes you decide that he gets to decide if you're lovable or not?
Right.
And she was like, whoa.
Yeah.
We've got to remind ourselves that there are people out there who do know us and love us and will tell us, what they actually think. Most of the time, if someone says something bad about us, they're going to be like, yeah, I don't agree with that. That's
right.
dumb.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we need to remember. If someone I love, what would they say to what?
Yeah.
Whatever. I think even in family, sometimes we've got to question the credibility of whoever is telling us something.
It's true.
You may have this crazy aunt who is a perfectionist and makes snide comments at you. Well, is she trustworthy? Does she
whether
make good
you accept it or not.
Does she make good decisions?
Whatever. Right.
How credible are they in your mind? You've got to decide if what someone says about you is even worth entertaining, because some of them might not even be credible at all.
Oh, I totally agree.
And if the source is credible and they're like, yo, you're being a jerk, then maybe you should reevaluate.
Yeah.
And see if you're being a jerk and change.
Yeah. I definitely think that other people can be a valued resource to finding who you are.
100%.
If you value them yourselves.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is if a lot of people agree about something, maybe there's something to look at to change. But if one or two people are like, da-da-da-da-da, and you're like, okay, well, my loved ones who I trust say this, then who cares what they've got to say?
Right, yeah.
And I was also thinking, I know I'm talking a lot, sorry.
Hey, you're fine.
And I was also thinking about, we can't make everyone like us, or we'd change and we wouldn't be who we are. Because I'm a very religious person, right? And if I tried to make everyone like me, then the people who are super, super anti-religious or super, super atheists that don't like people who are religious, in order for me to get them to like me, I'd have to change who I am.
Right.
And you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So you can't get everyone to like you, nor do you really want to at that point, you know?
I definitely think that that's another womanly feature, I feel like, that we have to carry.
That's true.
It's like we
have to make everyone like us.
Yeah, that we're supposed to be likable, we're supposed to present ourselves, and that's just not the case.
Right.
Everybody's different, everybody's got their own opinion, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to share the word and the quote of the day?
Yes. Okay, so the word of the day is sanguine. I believe I say that right.
Yes.
Let's hope so. It's an adjective, and it means optimistic or positive, especially in an apparently bad or difficult situation.
That's such a good word.
Yeah.
My goal is to use the words that I use for word of the day in my everyday life.
Okay.
I've gotten a tiny bit better about it, but it's really embarrassing when I use a word and then I completely forget what it means.
Okay, sanguine. I feel like that's a good one. Maybe if you're having a hard time, just be sanguine about it, you know?
Work on being sanguine.
Yeah, sanguine. It's kind of fun to say, too.
I think it's such a great compliment to someone else, too.
Yeah.
Like, when they're going through a hard time, you're like, wow, I'm really impressed with how sanguine you're being about all of this.
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, now I'm totally going to use it.
And they'll be like, what?
Yeah. Just listen to the podcast.
That's amazing.
Plug it in
over there. Self-plug. They're like, well, you could look it up, or we'll tell you the definition.
I'm not going to tell you how to spell it. You need to go listen to the podcast right now.
Okay, that was really good.
Yeah. Okay, you ready for the quote?
I am.
Okay. So this is by Christopher Marcus. He's a screenwriter. He's been a part of Chronicles of Narnia and a lot of the Marvel movies. And he also wrote Winter Soldier. So, Yeah, good guy.
Very good.
This is the quote. Okay. Hardship often prepares an ordinary person for an extraordinary destiny.
Whoa. I just got chills.
Yeah.
Read it one more time.
Okay. Hardship often prepares an ordinary person for an extraordinary destiny.
I can't even express to you how much I agree with that quote.
Yeah.
100%. I related to that quote that hardship makes you who you are in a better way.
Yeah.
Yeah, the things you go through don't define you. But if you go through that refiner's fire, or if you choose to go through those things in a sanguine way, I don't know.
There you go.
Then you can become better because of that and have an extraordinary destiny,
Yeah. I think everybody can agree that the trials that they face has helped grow them to who they are today, talking about identity. And
unless they become bitter about it.
True, yeah. And I think a big part of this quote that I really love, he makes sure that he says that this quote's for ordinary people. This is for everybody.
Right, right.
This isn't for,
Captain America.
Yeah, the D1 athlete that didn't get on a team until he was 13 and then grew to be this amazing player. This is for everybody.
Right.
So I think everyone
can have an
extranomical to help you out.
Extraordinary.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Extraordinary destiny.
Yeah.
Especially if you are religious.
Right.
Believing that we all are divine and have a divine identities and divine natures and divine identities. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so good. I cannot believe it's already at 30 minutes.
Crazy.
I can't even believe
I guess you're just going to have to invite me on again.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. We're going to have to have more time with Savannah. Okay, well, I'm actually going to have her back. Probably not for a week or two, but I can't wait to talk more about life and about psychology and for me to basically spout off while she listens. But I have loved having her on. I've loved learning more about her. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will see you next time.